everyone, this is Lucy from KBeautyHobbit.com. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. In a few of my other videos, I've mentioned little things like you should enjoy your skin and don't focus so much on the imperfections and so on and so forth. And I had a couple people reach out and say that those little bits are their favorite parts of the videos. And do I have any tips on liking your skin in general? While I'm definitely not an expert on self-love and actually really struggle with that, and definitely struggled with it most of my life, I'm going to give you my best advice and my best shot. And if you have other tips and tricks on how to be kind to yourself and how to like yourself, whether it relates to skincare or other things in life, please leave a comment because I would love to know, and I'm sure other viewers would also appreciate it. My first tip is to focus on the things that you like and try to not obsess over the things you don't. I'm going to use myself as an example here, but for example, I can't say that I love my hooded eyes, but instead of constantly thinking about my hooded eyes and how I may not like them, I choose to focus on my lips, which I think are pretty cool, or my eyebrows that just happen to be a little bit thicker, which is what is in fashion currently. Tip number 2 is to remember that comparison steals joy. Don't compare yourself to others. We're all different people. A lot of what we see online is photoshopped and heavily edited, but even if it's not, everybody is different, and comparing yourself to others just leads to unhappiness. I think comparing ourselves to our prior versions of ourselves is much better, like competing against yourself, so to speak, and constantly trying to improve within reason, of course. But celebrate your skin, look at the improvements that are happening. If you're not seeing improvements, maybe it's time to rethink your skincare routine. Maybe it's time to see a dermatologist or cosmetologist, or just reach out to some people with more experience. But in general, looking at how far I've come really helps me, because my skin definitely is not perfect, but it is a heck of a lot better than it used to be. And it even looks better than it did 10 years ago in some regards, which I think is saying quite a bit, because typically aging isn't seen as such a great thing. So focus on yourself. Remember not to compare your behind the scenes to other people's highlight reels, and just remember that we're all different. Number 3 is a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to try. So have you ever found yourself really not liking how you look in a certain picture that was taken recently? But then when you look at something that was taken 10 years ago, back when you thought you were too big or too small or too young or too this or that, and now suddenly you look back at it and think, man, I really wish I looked like that now. That is the case for me, and I hope this doesn't trigger anybody, but for my entire life, I always thought I was fat. Whether or not that was really legitimate or not, I don't know. But looking back at pictures when I was like 16 or 15, and I thought I was just so huge and I really hated my body. Looking back at it now, I'm like, why? Why did I think that? Like, everything looks absolutely fine. And in fact, in some ways, I wish some things would look like that again now. So with that in mind, what I try to do now is try to think, what will I think of the pictures now, 20 years from now? I see fine lines on my forehead. I don't love them. And I see some pigmentation spots that I don't love. But probably 20 or 30 years from now, I will have more fine lines, and my 31-year-old forehead is going to look like the goal. So I am trying to enjoy the now, so to speak, while it's happening, instead of lamenting what I once had 10 or 20 years in the future. I try to think, without being morbid about it, that today, right now, is the youngest I'll ever be, ever again. And I really should enjoy that. There's nothing wrong with aging. Absolutely nothing wrong with aging. In fact, that's the only way to live longer. And many people don't even get the privilege of aging. But let's enjoy what we have right now. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, leave me a comment. Or if it did, leave me a comment. I don't always have the best way with words, but I really try. Number 4 is ditch the magnifying mirror. Stop picking yourself apart, literally or conceptually. Look at the overall picture and really don't obsess about a single blemish or an enlarged pore or a freckle here and there or a forehead wrinkle in my regard. You know what? Actually, recently somebody commented on my Instagram saying, "How is your forehead so still? We think you maybe got Botox." And no, I've been actually consciously trying not to move my eyebrows a ton because I don't want to keep wrinkling my forehead and get those lines worse. So no, didn't get Botox. Nothing wrong with Botox. I haven't had no immediate plans for it. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is we are our own worst critics, of course, and just try to focus on the bigger picture. And also, I don't know if it's a separate tip or if it's the same tip, but honestly, the world does not revolve around you. Nobody else cares as much about your little breakout as you do. Most people don't notice. Most people don't care. I think my favorite eye-opening moment with that was years and years ago, when I was married to my now ex-husband. I had hair that was maybe to here, and I had this fantastic idea to get a pixie cut. So I went and got a pixie cut on a whim. I don't recommend it. I thought that it would be so easy to take care of, and not at all. I had to style my hair every day, otherwise I looked like a wet rat. Right after I got it cut, of course, the stylist made it look nice and pretty and styled it and everything, and I came home and I'm waiting for my spouse to come home and appreciate this new look. He didn't notice. Like, for real, he did not notice. And later I was like, "Hey, do you notice anything different?" And he just kind of looked at me and goes, "Did you dye your hair?" I'm like, seriously, dude, I cut like 90% of it off. So maybe that's an extreme example, but really honestly, nobody cares as much about whatever it is you see as a huge imperfection. Like, nobody else notices. And my last advice, and perhaps the most important one, is to remember that there's more to life than skincare. It seems so obvious, and yet I think sometimes we forget. Sometimes when there's something that bothers us so much, when there's something that we see as undesirable or even ugly, it becomes the sole focus, and we forget that there's so much more to life. For me, it's product photography, it's reading, it's my family, and just good movies and good, I don't know, food. There's so much. Travel eventually, hopefully again. Skin, appearance, physical things. Yes, I don't want to diminish them. They're important. It's important to me. That's why I have this whole blog and channel. I'm all for self-improvement without obsession. But again, without obsession. So try not to obsess. I see this a lot in my Facebook group. People will post something, then they'll apologize. They'll say, "I'm sorry for the ugly picture," or "I'm sorry, my skin is a mess." And most of the time, the other people in the group immediately comment, "What do you mean it's a mess? No, your eyes are beautiful," or "You have such a great smile," or whatever else. So I think to tie all of these tips together, A, it's rarely as bad as you think it is. B, nobody else really notices as much as you do. C, appreciate it while you have it, because things change and not always for the best. And then last but not least, your face isn't the only thing that exists. That's not the only thing that can bring you joy. So that is all I have to say on the subject. I'm obviously not a professional counselor or a dermatologist or a cosmetologist. And hopefully if you do have some sort of issues that require professional help, you seek it. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts on the subject and let me know what you think in general of videos like this. It's not something I would have thought to film, but I had more than one person surprisingly request that. I certainly wish somebody would have talked to me when I was a teenager and freaking out about the little pimples I used to get on my forehead, which, granted, compared to a lot of other teenagers, were really no big deal, but to me it was just earth-shattering, and I spent so much time trying to camouflage them. And now I'm thinking there was a certain charm to being young and having a little breakout. Like, when else do you have that? I mean, some people struggle with things their whole life. I understand that, but for me it was really just my teenage years when I had all those specific types of breakouts, and man, those were some really good years, and in some ways I wish I could have that again. Thank you very much for watching. You can find me on Instagram at KBeautyHobbit, on my blog KBeautyHobbit.com, and in my Facebook group Korean Beauty Fanatics. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I will see you in my next video, and until then, please remember to always listen to your skin. Thank you so much.